What's going on, guys? Ted from Immersion here. Sorry for the delay. I know it's been a while. I wanted to get this out earlier last week, and then just so many different things happened I wasn't able to. This is actually going to be a D&D update for the past 2 weeks. It's going to be long, I'll tell you that up front. So much news happened over the past 2 weeks. New campaign announcements, this whole Dicemasters Guild thing, and I'm going to try to go as in-depth as I can without exhausting the material and doing an hour-long update video. But we'll see what comes out of it, so stay tuned. Let's jump in. So, real quick, the new Faerun Under Siege Dicemasters set is coming out very soon. You can be on the lookout for that if you're a Dicemasters fan. Again, I haven't played it. I have expansions. It's on my list. I have a lot of stuff on my list of other D&D things, but I'm currently running 2 campaigns, doing a discussion show, and playing in another campaign that are all part of internet stuff. You can see them all online, as well as a couple stuff that I'm doing, at home games that aren't being streamed and aren't being recorded. So that plus, real life kind of gets in the way of me doing as many reviews as I'd like, but I'm doing what I can. Alright, Salvatore's Archmage, 5 stars on Audible. This was a big thing, this Dungeon Masters Guild. This happened about 2 weeks ago at this point. Basically, it's a way for content creators to publish their homebrew content, more or less, in an official D&D capacity. It also has really allowed all of the Adventure League titles to be available for you to play, any of the modules, things that you might be interested in. I guess there's the narrative for about the different things as well. Apparently this will have some of the information about the secret missions and faction updates and things like that. Pre-generated characters are available here for free. DM Guild titles. There's some interesting things in here that I thought... there's classic games here as well. Up here at the top, popular DM titles. These are things created by fans. The number 1 and 2 are the Gunslinger Fighter archetype and the Bloodhunter class, both created by Matthew Mercer of Critical Role. There's a bunch of other stuff. I've picked up a fair few of these things. I will probably eventually do reviews on the ones that I have picked up. There is a review system and a discussion system available on any of these. Like, you click the Gunslinger. Some of these, like this, is pay what you want. You scroll down, discussion topics where people talk about it, and there's reviews where people actually review the content in and of itself, so you can kind of get an idea whether it's worth to pick up or not. Some of the stuff that I've looked into that I found interesting were some of these expanded feat options. I looked at the epic level stuff. I wasn't too huge on it. I may be picking up some of the Adventure League content, just because it is cheap. You get a whole season's worth of stuff. And, it's designed by Wizards of the Coast, so it's got good stuff going on in there. And then again, conversations with faction contacts here. All sorts of interesting stuff. If you're running it or plan to run Adventure League titles, need pre-generated characters, want to see, what's this here? Additional archetypes. Look at this, a whole new set of archetypes for each one of the classes. Again, it's up to you to figure out whether you want to get these or not. They could be good, they could be bad. It's kind of a toss-up. Read through, see what you like. Like I said, I picked up a fair few, and I've been able to pull a decent amount of stuff from this. These are things that are separate. Most of these I think you could have found on, like, Drive-Thru RPG. This is run through the same basic function of that, so some of the stuff you might see in both places. Mike Mearls and Chris Lindsay are on the D&D podcast. This was 2 weeks ago to discuss the Dungeon Masters Guild and what actually happens there. Again, Adventure League content is now kind of open source, so you can kind of get access to that through the Dungeon Masters Guild. There's a lot of information here in this article. Basically, expeditions and encounters, you can download them, spend like $30 and get the entire season. It's going to be interesting. Let's see, what does it say? Head over to the Dungeon Masters Guild and check out what's happening over there. Ready to dive into the new season starting March 2016, which, as far as I've heard from some of the Adventure League folks, that will also be what kicks off being able to get access to rank 4 in your faction if you're an Adventure League player. Again, like they've done for everything, they've got the kind of history of Baphomet. See what Baphomet used to look like back in the day. and this is now. Again, R.A. Salvatore is doing e-signings for his books. You can get them right here. Get e-signings of any of these books. Let's see. There was an AMA on the 15th of January by Mike Mearls and Chris Lindsay, the folks I just mentioned that were on the D&D podcast. I've read through a handful of these. I'll see if I can't just scroll through quick and pick out some interesting tidbits that I was able to get. They don't have any new products to announce, nothing regarding Eberron, Dark Sun, Dragonlance, any of those. They're keeping them in mind, nothing new to report. No news on digital PDFs, or digital books or PDFs of the official books. So currently the only way to get access to those is to illegally pirate them yourself, or scan them in yourself, and then, then you gotta go through that process. Let's see what else. Are there any plans to release books for other areas of the Forgotten Realm? Like currently, the Sword Coast Adventure Guide is all about the Sword Coast. What about other areas like or Thay, things like that? It's definitely something we've talked about, especially if we can present it as part of an adventure, so it looks like they might be looking into that. A little bit about it, making adventures. Oh, I do have a question. Are you able to provide status for the work being done with Psionics or the Mystic class? And Mike Merle says I may have just turned over an updated draft for that class last week. So perhaps February, the Unearthed Arcana, maybe we'll get an updated draft of the full Psionic class, or perhaps we'll actually get an official published one. This I thought was pretty good. How do you feel the Beastmaster is in terms of coolness and usefulness? Will we see any love for that Ranger type? I think the Beastmaster is really, really hurt by trying to exist as a subclass within a class that supports non-Beast Rangers. The root of its power issues rest there, in my opinion. For those of you who have commented things on some of the stuff that I've said, I mean, I know we all kind of casually joke about the Ranger is bad. The Beastmaster Ranger is really the one that's hurting more than anything. Me personally, I think the Hunter Ranger could use an update. Again, rolling stats can kind of make any class better than it automatically is based off of that. But Beastmaster Ranger is hurting. Regardless of what I say, Wizards of the Coast has acknowledged it on many, many occasions that it needs a rework. And they're looking to bring it closer to Rangers of old. And I agree. I think the Ranger, I think the Beastmaster Ranger being an archetype is not as good as it being a base feature of the class. This was something I toyed around with the Ranger fix that I put up on nerdimmersion.com. However, I did away with it because it was guaranteed extra damage each turn. The problem being relegating your beast to an action, to use your action to have them attack. You will be not allowing you to have access to that attack. They will never have multi-attack. They will only be a quarter CR, so they will never do a ton of damage. And I don't know, I just feel like it will be kind of nerfing yourself. Whereas if you were to make that, like the Hunter Ranger, I think is in a very good spot. I think some of the base Ranger class features are kind of lackluster compared to other classes. But the Beastmaster is just could use a rework, and that's what they're going to make. They don't really have a pet class like you did in previous editions. Like I look at 3.5, the Familiar had a lot. Familiars for sorcerers and wizards had a lot more, and you can get feats for improved Familiar to make things better. Druids got a pet, Rangers got a pet, Druids got a better pet than the Ranger, and now they're making the Ranger the pet class. But it's only a pet class if you choose to do that and lose access to some of like the super badass damaging powers that a Hunter Ranger has. So perhaps making the Beast, which was kind of what I toyed around with, make the Beast a part of the base class, and then maybe have branches for that. Maybe you could probably still keep Hunter and Beastmaster, just make Beastmaster Rangers better beasts versus Hunter. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Again, all the links for any of these things I've been clicking on will be in the description. You can go ahead and flip through this. There is a lot of interesting comments. Look for the ones here with the red. These are the ones by Mike Mearls. And Chris Lindsay will be in there as well, so you can go ahead and click through to see any of that. Where will D&D be at convention scenes this year? They're not going to be at Gen Con, first off, which I thought was interesting. Winter Fantasy in Fort Wayne, Indiana from February 3rd to 7th. GaryCon in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin from March 3rd to 6th. They're going to be at PAX East from April 22nd to the 24th. They will be doing Acquisitions Inc. there as well. I'm going to be at PAX East myself. Maybe I'll get lucky enough to get into, try to jump in. I'm going to be busy with, obviously, PAX East craziness and cosplay and video games and things. But I'm going to see if I can't jump into a D&D Adventure League kind of situation while I'm there. Maybe I'll see some of you guys there. Maybe we can jump into a campaign, you know, an Adventure League campaign together. That'd be kind of fun. Origins in Columbus, Ohio from June 15th to 19th. PAX Prime in Seattle, Washington from August 28th to 31st. And that's it. There's going to be, the guys at Baldwin Games will be doing D&D stuff at Gen Con, but Dungeons & Dragons Wizards of the Coast officially will not be at Gen Con this year. If you're looking for a dice bag, you can go to Ultra Pro, the folks that do most of the card holders and deck boxes and things like that, and get yourself a Mind Flayer dice bag for $17. Might be a little much depending on your thoughts on it. Big news that came this past week was the release of a new campaign that will be coming out on March 15th. This is Curse of Strahd. This is a return to the Ravenloft campaign. This is going to be written, big news for this, not third-party produced. We've had Kobold Press, we've had Green Ronin, and we've had Sasquatch Games produce the 3 major campaign, or 4 if you want to consider it that way, major campaigns of D&D 5th edition so far, which would be Horde of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat, Princes of the Apocalypse, and Out of the Abyss, all produced, I guess, by Wizards of the Coast, or published by Wizards of the Coast, produced and written by a third party. This one is going to be written in-house by Chris Perkins, who is DM to the Stars, as well as with feedback of Tracy and Laura Hickman, the people in charge of writing the original Ravenloft campaign that was published back in the 80s, 1983, I think. So you can get your, obviously it's Curse of Strahd, it's going to be more horror, more undead, vampires. I mean, you get a very clear Castlevania look right on the front cover in my mind. That's what I get. Castlevania Symphony of the Night Dracula. You know, what is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. Toss your glass. These cards here are actually going to play an important part, and I'll get to that in a second. It will get you from levels 1 to 10, I believe. I read somewhere. I think if you click on the actual, I think it's this link to the actual Wizards of the Coast website. Yes, levels 1 to 10. These cards, though, are a certain type of card called it's the Taraka deck. It is a tool for both Madame Eva and Dungeon Masters running Curse of Strahd. Gale Force 9, the folks behind the spellbook cards and things like that, some of the DM screens, they're going to be making a physical Taraka deck. I will be getting that. I will be giving a review on that as well. And again, I'll be doing similar to what I did with Out of the Abyss, Sword Coast Adventures Guide, things like that. I will be picking up Curse of Strahd, and I will be flipping through it right as soon as it comes out and doing a what's new in Curse of Strahd, if there's new information. Not spoiling the story, just telling you new items, if there's new races, new monsters, that kind of stuff. However, the Taraka deck, by using the Taraka deck to randomize locations within the adventure, Dungeon Masters can customize each party's exploration of Barovia, allowing Curse of Strahd to be replayed for years to come. This gives me a feeling of kind of like Diablo 2 style dungeons, or games like that, where each time you enter a dungeon, it's randomized. So playing these cards will, I guess, theoretically allow you to move stuff within the castle, possibly things getting up to the castle itself. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Madame Eva, which they mentioned, if you were to go to Twitter, here is Madame Eva. She's taken over the D&D Wizards Twitter account. If you retweet any of her tweets here with hashtag DnD Fortune, she will, let's see if we can get something here. She will give you your own fortune drawn from the deck. So this guy, Kylo Ren, basically, R3N. The spirits bid me to read your D&D fortune. The Dark Lord is an ill omen, but for you, it may herald triumph. And she pulls these cards, and each day she will give you your own custom fortune if you retweet that on Twitter. So pretty cool little way to kind of build the mystery around that. We still have almost a full month, maybe even a little bit more than that before this releases. So I'm sure we'll be getting snippets potentially ahead of time for this book. If you are a member or you have an Adventure League, Wizards Play Network store, you'll probably be able to get access to this about 11 days earlier. So on the 4th of March, that's when I'll hopefully be getting access to it as well. And I'll let you guys know it's going to retail for $50. What else? We got new wallpapers. There's this Bruenor Battlehammer one we saw a while back, and this Curse of Strahd one as well. If you'd like to get the wallpapers, again, links in the description. Dicemasters monthly organized play. There's a couple links here if you want to click to get into access to the Blue Dragon and Red Dragon organized play events. Geek and Sundry, as they've been doing, releasing various pre-generated characters for various D&D, to make existing fictional characters in Dungeons & Dragons. They did a whole Sailor Moon set. Now they've done Harry Potter. So you can see Harry, I guess, is a 5th level sorcerer, and you can read through, see his various spells here. Fly, lightning bolt, wild magic. A lot of them are wild magic. Hermione's a wizard, makes sense, it's all book learning. Ron's a bard, I thought that was pretty interesting. Neville is a druid, I guess they're playing off the herbology side of things. Draco is a wizard, he is a illusion wizard. Dumbledore is a 15th level sorcerer with wild magic. So there you go, and so you can see your Sailor Moon characters. How to play Troll D&D. Just click this real quick. Adoptee. Either way. Check out Geek and Sundry stuff. Aside from just Critical Role, they also have some other good D&D related stuff. Let's see what we got. Chris Perkins, Tracy Hickman were on the D&D podcast this past week to talk all about Ravenloft and Curse of Strahd, what's going on there. So you can check that out on iTunes. Which here's the link here, which I'll have in the description if you'd like to check out any of the previous D&D podcasts all the way back to 2008. Go ahead and do that. This is something amazing, by the way. This is a Shapeways thing where you can go ahead and if you want to make D&D minis, you can, I believe these are not for sale, but I believe you can just download the files to print any, or maybe you can buy them, but I thought that the files were also free. Maybe I'm wrong. You see, a lot of these say not for sale, some of these say they are. If you can get access to these files, you can basically see you can download and print all of these D&D minis. Pretty much, do not print as is, separate pieces in your own 3D program, blah blah blah. Looks like you can, again, just download these to print. Bone Devil, Wraiths, Behir, Chimera, Banshee, Coatl. I mean, there's everything pretty much. The entire monster manual, all the dragons. Things seem to be relatively properly sized as well. Basically, I mean, you can see a D20, you can see the size, print the bases. I mean, even just, you know, some of these just would be great to have, especially if you want to do something like kobolds. Just copy and paste a bunch of kobolds on your print bed and just make a whole bunch. Zombie Beholder, Hellhound, all sorts of cool stuff. A little Black Dragon action here. Got the big base, so it'll take up the proper 3x3 squares on the mat. Pretty cool. This model is 3D printed in white, strong and flexible, white nylon plastic with matte finish. Again, I'm not sure if these are Shapeways, so I'm not sure if you might be able to contact the guy and get access to the prints, because most of these don't have prices. Some of these do. You can get the Dread Gazebo. I saw this. I thought this was pretty funny. Get the Dread Gazebo. But it's $55 to buy it. And, yeah, depends. You might be better off printing these your own if you can get access to the shape files. So, yeah. Share with players my 3D work, so maybe you can. Who knows? View the shop. Oh, maybe they are only for sale. I don't know. Either way, cool stuff. 3D printers are awesome. And lastly, I mentioned Critical Role before. Matthew Mercer, Dungeon Master for Critical Role, has started a series. There's no real determination on how long this series is going to run, but it's releasing every Friday on the Geek and Sundry channel, not on their YouTube, only on the channel itself. It's Dungeon Master Tips. There's written information here, and then the video is here. He's done 2. The first one was all about building encounters. The second one is about building NPCs. It's pretty cool stuff. I would check it out. It's definitely useful information. The encounter one, he actually gives pretty good advice as far as not just the mechanics of building an encounter, how to set CRs. He gives a couple of but gives you information about links and interesting websites you may not have found on your own. Something like Kobold Fight Club to design encounters, things like that. But also suggestions on, mats versus paper versus this, that, and the other thing. How to, look in a couple of links for things to figure out how to shade and draw to make your maps look a little more interesting, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. I didn't get a chance to update my end card, so this is just going to be what you're going to get here. Up top Tuesday is our Tuesday D&D campaign. The one that you're going to see up there is actually a really special one. We did another unveil of Tome of Beast monsters from Kobold Press. They are releasing a book coming out this summer, I believe. It was kickstarted earlier in the year. It blew way past its goal. It's all about new monsters as well as new lairs. We debuted the Lindworm, which is an icy dragon-type monster. My party fought against 3 of them. Almost killed them, infected them with some nasty diseases. They're still overcoming those, which you'll see on this coming Tuesday's game. But we fought those and finished up a couple of loose ends and stuff like that, so you can check that out up here. The middle here is just going to be, Sean and I did a discussion on whether or not to use using grids, like battle mats and gridded paper, versus Theater of the Mind, everything's all in your head, just die rolls and the DM explains all of it. Which actually kind of works because we brought back our Thursday D&D campaign. We're attempting it again just to see how it goes. It may not continue, we'll find out. But we brought it back and we're trying to do that entirely Theater of the Mind. We're just rolling dice in Roll20. The rest is all being explained with my imagination, and they're listening to it in their heads to see what they can come up with. And down the bottom is our Dungeons & Dragons discussion show. This past week, we talked all about, we reviewed the Lindworm monsters from Tome of Beasts right at the start, but we also went into all about multiclassing. I will warn you ahead of time, this is a very, very numbers-intensive, very mechanic-intensive review. If that's something you're into, go for it. Most of the folks in the chat could not follow along because they're, at least we were kind of going through things pretty quick. We talked about, first off, started about the mechanics of multiclassing and how it's done and handled in this system, the mechanics behind it. Then we kind of just started spitballing ideas for multiclassing, working on different classes, things that people are playing in the game, that we're playing in other campaigns and things like that. But we jump back and forth between different builds, different ideas, what's good to multiclass, what's this, that, and the other thing. And it gets pretty heavy. So just be forewarned, you may need to watch it once or twice to follow along with anything. It is about an hour-and-a-half long discussion about multiclassing, but we'll see what you think. This coming Tuesday, we're going to be resuming again our D&D campaign. They're in the mountains. We'll see what happens. And our discussion show is all going to be about feats. There's not that many feats in the game. They have altered the way feats work. They're not even technically, they're an optional rule from the get-go. But we're going to talk about some of our favorites, which ones we think are good, which ones are bad. There are some that seem really good, and they're kind of traps where you're like, oh, I should get this, and then you read it a little closer, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not worth it. So check that out and see what you guys think. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great week. I'm sorry this came out so late. It did run a little long. The actual funny story, when I recorded it once already for the end of the previous week, but for some reason the recording didn't take. It stopped. I lost all the progress, and then I got caught up with everything during the week, so it came out a little bit later. Focused a lot more on the Dungeon Masters Guild and what stuff you could find in there, but I've had time to play around with it now, so, you guys should go check that out. But anyway, have a great week, guys. I will catch you this coming weekend with another D&D update. Hopefully we'll have more news about Curse of Strahd, but I guess we'll see. So happy gaming, and I'll see you next time.